Hey everyone, ready for some sunshine?
Agree.
We are. So today we're doing a deep dive into Los Angeles. We're going to get you totally prepped for a trip there.
Oh, yeah.
And we've got FlightNHotels.com to help us with booking. But also we've got this incredibly detailed LA travel guide. I'm super curious to see how using both will help us create a unique LA experience.
Well, I think it's brilliant. We have the practicality of actually booking the trip with FlightNHotels.com.
Yeah.
But then the guide, really dives into the heart of LA, offering those insider tips and that inspiration that can really make a trip special.
For sure. Flight Hotels is like a one-stop shop for booking flights and hotels, which is great for efficiency and it lets you compare prices to find the best deals. But, one thing that kind of stresses me out when traveling is dealing with those unexpected hiccups. Mm-hmm. Like what if a flight's delayed or there's an issue with a hotel?
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's where Flight and Hotels 24/7 customer support comes in. Having that available anytime, anywhere can be a huge relief. It's almost like having a travel buddy, right? Like in your pocket, ready to help navigate those stressful situations.
I can definitely see that.
Yeah.
Especially when you're in a new city. Okay, so let's shift gears and talk about, what to actually DO in LA. This guide is packed with iconic spots, hidden gems, and everything in between.
Oh, yeah.
It's really cool to see the variety that LA has to offer.
Absolutely. LA is a city of contrasts. You can experience like the glitz and glamour of Hollywood, but then find yourself, wandering through a peaceful Japanese garden the next. It really captures that diversity.
Okay. So let's start with that classic LA experience. Hollywood. The guide mentions all the must-sees. Hollywood Boulevard, Walk of Fame, the TCL Chinese Theater. I can practically picture myself among all those stars. But tell me, is there anything in the guide that surprised you about those iconic spots?
What I found interesting was the detail about the TCL Chinese Theater forecourt. Mm-hmm. It's not just handprints. It's like there's some truly unique imprints in the cement. For example, Roy Rogers even left his horse Trigger's hoof prints.
Wow. I didn't even see that. It makes you wonder about the stories behind those prints. Mm-hmm. While we're talking about Hollywood history, I'm curious about the Hollywood sign. I know it's a symbol of the industry today, but what does the guide say about its origins?
Well, the guide actually dives into the fascinating history of the sign. It wasn't always a symbol of the entertainment industry. Originally, it read Hollywoodland, and it was a real estate advertisement back in the 1920s.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah.
It's amazing how these landmarks, like how they evolve and take on new meaning over time. So from Hollywood history, let's transition to another quintessential LA experience, the beach scene. What are some of the highlights from the guide?
Well, the guide raves about Santa Monica Pier. It's just a classic California experience with the Ferris wheel and the carousel, the arcade games, It just captures that carefree, nostalgic feeling of a day at the beach.
Yeah.
And you can even walk or bike along the beach path all the way to Venice Beach, which has a completely different vibe.
Right. So Venice Beach is a little more eclectic, right?
Yeah.
What does the guide say?
The guide describes Venice Beach as, kind of a vibrant mix of street performers, artists, and unique shops. It's definitely a sensory overload. You've got Muscle Beach with its outdoor gym and bodybuilders. Then you have the Venice canals offering a peaceful contrast with their charming bridges and colorful houses. It's almost like stepping into a different world.
It sounds like there's something for everyone. From fitness enthusiasts to art lovers, to those who just want to soak up the unique atmosphere. Speaking of art, I'm curious about the Getty Center. What insights does the guide offer about this architectural marvel?
The guide highlights the Getty Center not just as a museum, but as an experience in itself. Richard Meyer, the architect, he designed it to be this incredible blend of modern architecture, natural light, and stunning views.
I've heard that Meyer used a very specific type of stone for the Getty Center. Does the guide mention anything about that? I'm always fascinated by the materials used in architecture and how they can contribute to the feel of a space.
You're right. The guide mentions that Meyer used travertine stone imported from Italy, and it's a beautiful warm-toned stone that gives the Getty Center a timeless and elegant feel. Plus, the way that the stone reflects the California sunlight creates this incredible interplay of light and shadow throughout the complex.
It sounds absolutely breathtaking. It's like the architecture itself is a work of art. Yeah, but the Getty Center is also home to a world-renowned art collection, right? What does the guide highlight as some must-see pieces?
The guide actually suggests focusing on one specific piece, Van Gogh's Irises. It's a masterpiece of Impressionism, and a great starting point for understanding the Getty's collection of European art. The guide even suggests taking a moment to sit in front of the painting and really absorb its beauty and the emotions it evokes.
That's a great tip. It's easy to get caught up in seeing everything in a museum, but sometimes it's better to focus on a few key pieces and really connect with them on a deeper level. And while we're on the topic of art, the guide mentioned some other notable museums in LA. Which ones caught your eye?
Well, besides the Getty Center, the guide highlights LA's CMA, the Los Angeles County Museum of Art. It's the largest art museum in the western U.S., and it has an incredibly diverse collection spanning various cultures and time periods.
LACMA sounds like a great place to explore the breadth of art history. What does the guide recommend seeing there?
The guide suggests checking out LACMA's Pavilion for Japanese Art. It's a serene oasis within the museum, showcasing traditional Japanese art and architecture. Plus, it has this beautiful garden with a koi pond, offering a peaceful retreat from the busy city.
That sounds like a perfect blend of art and nature. And while we're talking about museums, is there anything in the guide about the Natural History Museum? I'm always a sucker for dinosaur exhibits.
You and me both. The Natural History Museum is definitely a must-see for anyone who loves dinosaurs, ancient artifacts, or just exploring the wonders of the natural world. The guide actually recommends their newest exhibit, Becoming Los Angeles, which explores the history of the region from its prehistoric past to its modern metropolis.
Okay, so we've covered some of the big-name attractions in LA, but I'm always drawn to the hidden gems, the places that offer a more unique and off-the-beaten-path experience. What does the guide suggest for those seeking a less touristy side of LA?
Well, the guide has an entire section dedicated to those hidden gems. One that caught my eye was El Matador State Beach in Malibu. It's known for its dramatic rock formations, secluded coves, and stunning sunsets.
El Matador sounds incredible. Is there anything in the guide about how to get there? I imagine it's not easily accessible by public transportation.
You're right. A car is definitely recommended for El Matador, and the guide emphasizes the importance of checking tide times before you go, as the beach can be quite small at high tide. It also suggests arriving early in the morning or late afternoon to avoid the crowds and capture those magical golden hour photos.
Those are great tips. It's those little details that can make such a big difference. When planning a smooth and enjoyable trip. Speaking of planning, I'm starting to feel overwhelmed with all these amazing options. It's like I need a personal travel assistant.
Well, that's where FlightNHotels.com comes in handy. Remember, they offer 24/7 customer support. So if you need help with anything from booking flights to finding the best deals on hotels to getting advice on local transportation, they've got you covered.
That's reassuring to know.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's nice to have that extra support, especially when planning a trip to a new city. But beyond the practicalities of booking and transportation, I'm also curious about the vibe of LA. Like, what kind of atmosphere can visitors expect?
LA has this unique energy. It's a city that's constantly buzzing with creativity and ambition. It's a place where people come to chase their dreams, to push boundaries, to reinvent themselves. And that energy is palpable, from the bustling streets of Hollywood to the laid-back beaches of Malibu.
It's almost like LA is a character in itself, a city with its own personality, its own stories to tell. Speaking of stories, I'm curious about the culinary scene in LA. What does the guide say about the food?
Oh, get ready for a culinary adventure. LA is a melting pot of cultures, and its food scene reflects that diversity.
Yeah.
From classic California cuisine to international flavors from around the globe, there's something to tantalize every palate.
Okay, I'm officially intrigued. Let's dig into those delicious details right after this.
Yeah.
Quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's talk food. I'm ready to hear about all the culinary delights that LA has to offer. Where does the guide suggest we start our food adventure?
Well, if you want a taste of old Hollywood glamour, the guide recommends Musso and Frank Grill on Hollywood Boulevard.
Musso and Frank Grill. That sounds familiar.
It's been a Hollywood institution since 1919. They're known for their classic American dishes, their martinis, and the legendary celebrities who've graced their tables over the years.
So I could potentially be sipping a cocktail at the same bar where Humphrey Bogart or Marilyn Monroe once sat. That's incredible. It'd be like stepping back in time to the golden age of Hollywood.
Exactly. And the guide mentions that they still use some of their original recipes, so you're getting a true taste of Hollywood history.
That's fascinating. Okay, Musso and Frank Grill is definitely on my list. But let's say I'm in the mood for something a little more modern, something that reflects that fresh, innovative spirit of LA's culinary scene. What does the guide suggest?
For that, the guide recommends Gelina in Venice.
Gelina, tell me more.
It's a popular spot for brunch and dinner, known for its seasonal, locally sourced ingredients and its laid-back California vibe.
I'm all about those fresh local ingredients. What kind of dishes do they serve?
They have a variety of dishes, but the guide highlights their wood-fired pizzas, their fresh salads, and their delicious pasta dishes.
Okay, I am sold. Gelina sounds like the perfect spot to fuel up after a day of exploring Venice Beach. But we can't talk about LA food without mentioning tacos, right?
Of course not. Tacos are practically a way of life in LA. And the guide recommends Leo's Tacos Truck, which has multiple locations throughout the city.
A food truck? I'm intrigued. What's so special about Leo's?
They're known for their authentic al pastor tacos.
Al pastor. Now you're talking my language.
The meat is cooked on a vertical spit and shaved off to order, then served with pineapple, cilantro, and onions on a warm tortilla.
My mouth is watering just thinking about it. I love how LA's food scene embraces those vibrant street food traditions. It adds another layer of flavor and authenticity to the city's culinary landscape. Okay, Leo's Tacos Truck is a must-try. But let's be real, a trip to LA can be a bit of a splurge, especially if you're eating out for every meal. Does the guide offer any suggestions for more budget-friendly options?
Absolutely. For those looking for affordable eats, the guide recommends exploring the Grand Central Market in downtown LA.
Grand Central Market. I think I've heard of that place.
It's a historic food hall with over 30 vendors offering a wide variety of cuisines. From tacos and ramen to pizza and pastries, you can sample a taste of everything without breaking the bank.
That's perfect. I love the idea of a food hall where you can experience the city's culinary diversity all in one place. Speaking of diversity, I'm curious about LA's Asian food scene. What does the guide recommend?
For Asian food, the guide suggests heading to Koreatown for some of the best Korean BBQ in the city.
Korean BBQ. Sign me up. I've heard it's a fun and interactive dining experience.
You grill your own meats at the table, and it's usually accompanied by an array of delicious banchan, or small side dishes.
That sounds amazing. I love the communal aspect of Korean BBQ, how it brings people together around the table. Okay, my taste buds are officially tantalized. But a trip to LA is about more than just food, right? What about the nightlife? Does the guide offer any suggestions for places to catch a show or enjoy some live music?
For music lovers, the guide recommends checking out the Troubadour in West Hollywood.
The Troubadour. Now that's a name I recognize. What's so special about it?
It's a legendary music venue that has hosted countless iconic acts over the years, from Elton John and Joni Mitchell to Guns N' Roses and Radiohead. You might even catch a rising star on their way to fame.
The Troubadour sounds like a must-do for any music fan. I can only imagine the history and energy within those walls. But let's say I'm in the mood for something a little more low-key, maybe a place with a view where I can unwind after a busy day of sightseeing. What does the guide suggest?
For that, the guide recommends heading to Rooftop at the Wayfarer Hotel in downtown LA.
Rooftop at the Wayfarer Hotel. Tell me more.
It offers stunning panoramic views of the city skyline, along with craft cocktails and a relaxed atmosphere.
Okay, I can already picture myself sipping a cocktail under the stars with the twinkling lights of the city spread out before me. That sounds like the perfect way to end a day of exploring LA.
And if you time it right, you can even catch a glimpse of the sunset over the Pacific Ocean.
Wow, that sounds magical. Okay, we've got our itinerary packed with dining, music, and breathtaking views. But let's be real, a trip to LA can be a whirlwind of activity. It's important to factor in some downtime, some opportunities to relax and recharge. Does the guide offer any suggestions for those seeking a peaceful escape from the city buzz?
Absolutely. For a tranquil retreat, the guide recommends visiting the Huntington Library, Art Museum, and Botanical Gardens in San Marino.
The Huntington Library, Art Museum, and Botanical Gardens. That sounds like a lot to take in. What exactly does it entail?
It's a 120-acre oasis with stunning gardens, a world-class art collection, and a research library.
Wow, that's impressive. What kind of gardens are there?
They have a variety of themed gardens, including a Japanese garden, a rose garden, a desert garden, and a Chinese garden.
It sounds like a horticultural paradise. I love the idea of wandering through these different gardens, each with its own unique atmosphere and beauty. And what about the art collection? What does the guide highlight?
The guide mentions that the Huntington has a particularly impressive collection of British portraiture, including works by Gainsborough, Reynolds, and Romney.
British portraiture. I'm not that familiar with that genre. What makes it special?
These portraits offer a glimpse into the lives and personalities of the British aristocracy and provide a fascinating historical and cultural context. The guide suggests paying close attention to the details in the paintings, from the clothing and hairstyles to the facial expressions and body language.
That's a great tip. I often find myself rushing through museums trying to see everything, but it's those subtle details that can truly bring a work of art to life. So the Huntington sounds like a perfect blend of art, nature, and history. But let's say I'm in the mood for something a little more active, a way to get some exercise and fresh air while still enjoying the beauty of LA. Does the guide offer any suggestions for outdoor activities?
For those who want to combine exercise with stunning views, the guide recommends hiking to the top of Runyon Canyon Park.
Runyon Canyon, isn't that the one with the views of the Hollywood sign?
You got it. Runyon Canyon is a popular spot for locals and tourists alike, offering challenging trails and panoramic vistas of the city, the Hollywood sign, and even the Pacific Ocean on a clear day.
Okay, Runyon Canyon is officially on my list.
Yeah.
I love the idea of combining a workout with some sightseeing, but before we get too carried away with our LA adventures, let's bring it back to the practicalities of actually getting around in LA once you're there. What does the guide say about transportation?
Well, as you know, LA is notorious for its car culture. And while renting a car can give you the most freedom to explore, it's not always the most efficient or enjoyable way to get around, especially with the traffic.
Traffic is definitely a concern. So what are the alternatives? Does LA have a decent public transportation system?
LA's public transportation system has been steadily improving in recent years. The metro rail system in particular has expanded significantly, offering a convenient and affordable way to travel between different neighborhoods.
That's good to know. Which metro lines does the guide recommend?
The guide highlights a few key lines. You can hop on the Red Line to Hollywood, the Purple Line to Koreatown, or the Expo Line to Santa Monica.
Those sound like efficient ways to reach some of the key destinations we've been discussing. But what about those areas that aren't directly served by the metro? Are there any other transportation options we should know about?
Absolutely. Ride-sharing services like Uber and Lyft are extremely popular in LA, and they can be a great option for getting around, especially if you're traveling in a group or have luggage.
That's a good point. I hadn't considered ride sharing. And what about those iconic red double-decker buses I see in all the LA movies? Are those just a tourist gimmick, or do they actually offer a good way to see the sights?
You're talking about the hop-on, hop-off tour buses, right? They can be a fun and informative way to get an overview of the city's main attractions.
Tell me more. What kind of routes do they offer?
You can choose from different routes that cover Hollywood, Beverly Hills, Santa Monica, and more. And as the name suggests, you can hop on and off as many times as you like throughout the day.
That sounds like a great way to see a lot in a short amount of time, especially if you're not familiar with the city's layout. But sometimes I just love exploring on foot, getting lost in a neighborhood, and really soaking up the atmosphere. Does the guide recommend any particularly walkable areas in LA?
Absolutely. West Hollywood, for example, is known for its trendy boutiques, stylish cafes, and vibrant nightlife, all within easy walking distance.
West Hollywood?
Yeah.
I can definitely see myself spending an afternoon there, browsing the shops and soaking up the scene. What else does the guide suggest?
Well, downtown LA has undergone a major revitalization in recent years, and it's now home to a thriving arts and culture scene.
Downtown LA. I haven't spent much time there. What's changed?
It's become a hub for museums, theaters, art galleries, and trendy restaurants, all within walking distance of each other.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
It sounds like downtown LA has transformed into a vibrant cultural destination. What does the guide recommend seeing there?
You can check out the Walt Disney Concert Hall, explore the contemporary art scene at the Broad, or catch a show at the Music Center.
Those sound like great additions to any LA itinerary. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. From iconic landmarks to hidden gems, from fine dining to street food, from public transportation to scenic drives, we've got a pretty comprehensive LA experience shaping up. But before we wrap up this epic LA deep dive, I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier. The energy of Los Angeles. What exactly do you mean by that?
LA has this palpable energy, a feeling of possibility and ambition. It's a city that draws dreamers, innovators, and creators from all over the world. And that energy is contagious.
I can see that. It's like LA is a magnet for those who are seeking something more, something bigger, something bolder.
Exactly. And that energy manifests itself in the city's art, its music, its food, its fashion, even its architecture.
It's like LA is constantly evolving, pushing boundaries, reinventing itself.
And that's what makes it so exciting. You never know what you're going to find around the next corner or who you're going to meet.
So as we wrap up this exploration of LA, what's the one piece of advice you would give to someone planning their own LA adventure?
Don't just visit LA, experience it. Don't be afraid to step outside of your comfort zone, to try new things, to meet new people.
That's great advice. And speaking of new experiences, I'm curious about those museums that showcase the artistic spirit of LA. Let's delve into those cultural gems after a quick handle. You mentioned museums that showcase the artistic spirit of LA. What exactly comes to mind?
Well, we talked about the Getty Center and its incredible architecture. The guide also suggests checking out the Museum of Contemporary Art.
The Museum of Contemporary Art.
Or MOCA.
MOCA.
Yeah.
Okay. Haven't heard of that one.
It's a contemporary art museum with 2 locations in downtown LA, MOCA Grand Avenue, and the Geffen Contemporary at MOCA.
Okay.
And the guide specifically mentions MOCA Grand Avenue as a must-see, especially for architecture enthusiasts.
Interesting. What's so special about the architecture?
Well, it was designed by the Japanese architect Arata Isozaki.
Oh, wow.
And it's a striking example of postmodern architecture with these geometric shapes, red sandstone, and a really unique pyramid-shaped skylight.
A pyramid-shaped skylight. I bet that creates some interesting plays of light within the museum.
Exactly. The guide mentions how the light filtering through that skylight changes throughout the day, casting different shadows and illuminating the artwork in various ways.
It sounds like the building itself is a work of art. But of course, we're here for the art inside. What does the guide highlight from MOCA's collection?
Well, MOCA is known for its collection of post-war and contemporary art, and the guide recommends checking out their collection of works by California artists. It's a great way to see how the city's unique environment and culture have influenced artistic expression.
That makes sense. LA has always been a hub for creativity and innovation. It's interesting to see how that translates into the art world. Okay, MOCA is definitely on my list. Are there any other museums that the guide recommends for art lovers?
Well, we talked about LACMA and its vast collection, but the guide also suggests checking out the Hammer Museum in Westwood.
The Hammer Museum?
Yeah.
Tell me more.
It's known for its focus on emerging artists and underrepresented voices in the art world, and they have a rotating collection of exhibitions that often feature thought-provoking and challenging contemporary art.
That sounds right up my alley. I'm always interested in discovering new artists and perspectives. What kind of art can I expect to see at the Hammer?
It varies depending on the current exhibitions, but they often showcase a mix of painting, sculpture, photography, video art, and performance art.
Wow. It sounds like a dynamic and engaging space. Is there anything in the guide about the Hammer Museum's architecture?
Yeah, the guide mentions that the building itself has a unique history. It was originally built in 1962 as the Occidental Petroleum Headquarters.
Oh, wow.
And later transformed into a museum by the Hammer family.
That's fascinating. It's amazing how a building's purpose can evolve over time and how architecture can be repurposed to serve new creative endeavors. Okay, the Hammer Museum is another one to add to my list. Yeah. You know, as we've been talking about all these incredible museums, it's become clear that LA is more than just a city of entertainment. It's a city with a rich cultural heritage, a place where art thrives and inspires.
Absolutely. LA's museums offer a glimpse into the city's soul, its history, its diversity, and its boundless creativity.
And they provide a space for reflection, for contemplation, for challenging our perspectives and expanding our understanding of the world around us.
Exactly. Museums are not just about preserving the past, they're also about shaping the future. They inspire new ideas, new conversations, and new ways of seeing the world.
I couldn't agree more. Well, I think it's safe to say that we've covered a lot of ground in our deep dive into Los Angeles. From iconic landmarks to hidden gems, from culinary delights to cultural treasures, we've explored the many facets of this dynamic and ever-evolving city.
We've given our listeners the tools and inspiration to craft their own unique LA experience, whether they're a first-time visitor or a seasoned traveler.
Exactly. So, as we wrap up our exploration of LA, what's the one thought you'd like to leave our listener with?
Remember that LA is a city that rewards curiosity and open-mindedness. So, embrace the unexpected, explore beyond the familiar, and allow yourself to be surprised and delighted by everything this incredible city has to offer.
Beautifully said. And on that note, we bid you farewell from the City of Angels. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.